Pedro, what up, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Were you listening? Have you been listening to us for the last 5 minutes?
I've been on my phone listening in, so I think we're ready for this conversation.
I mean, what
What's
is
happening apparently?
what is your take on the state of internet capital markets on Solana?
Yeah, I think the the thesis is to be the best place for sustainable capital formation, and sustainable is actually the key word here, right? So most recently, we saw Umbra raise $155 million, I think, across 10,000 investors using MetaDAO, and we want to
They
continue.
didn't raise it though, Pedro. You're guilty of it again, man. They didn't raise it. That was a game for. That's how they got allocation, right? It was an allocation game. So people put that money up, but knowing that they would get cut back significantly.
Right, but I think the point is that the rights were clearly outlined,
I'm with you there. I'm with
right?
you there.
Like
I love what
I,
MetaDAO
I
is
I
doing.
actually think that is the most important thing here. It's communication, it's founder education to the community, to the token holders. What does this actually represent, right? From meme coins or social tokens to rev coins, X stocks, right? I think if you're fair and transparent, everything is fair game, right? And we want to leverage the sheer cultural and liquidity velocity on Solana to actually promote this fairness.
It's interesting to me because I think there's sort of like lowercase ICM and capital ICM, and I think
Mm,
what I see is there's sort of like when I see Kyle get on stage at the All In Summit, or I think of a lot of maybe the foundation leadership talking about ICM, I think it's capital ICM, right? It's this big picture. Markets are coming everywhere. We're going to build the NASDAQ of the internet. Good things can come from it. Obviously, there'll be some misses along the way. And then I think there's like ICM that the trenches discuss about right now, which are, I think, meme coins with just a different twist on them. And I think the job here, or at least I'm curious about your take, is like, how do we there's such a momentum to the narrative around the things that have tokens that I can go speculate on right now. And yet I think the opportunity is far bigger than that.
yeah.
And we risk just being too narrow in our definitions and ultimately, burning out the narrative in a way that actually turns off a lot of the investors that we need to make this thing work.
Yeah, my personal take is that innovation drives a lot of the changes that we're actually going to see pertaining to rules and frameworks in the next few years. From the administration's perspective, for example, there's a lot of interesting changes that I do believe will be net positive from the perspective of token holders' rights. And I think people like the trenchers, or the underscore I is actually pushing the boundary a lot faster than what is happening in the capitalized side. I totally agree with you, but there is going to be a convergence, and I personally believe there has been a convergence through these revenue tokens, through founders actually being more explicit with their community. That is a great first step.
Yeah, I mean, I think that crypto has where we are, even in the fact that there's market structure legislation on, moving through the government right now is driven because people just went and took risks and said, hey, this financial system here is now open for redesign, and we're not going to wait for other people to tell us, what is right here. We're going to go do the things. And I think there's been, overwhelmingly, I mean, people may disagree with this, but good actors there that have been driven with the right intent to go make that happen. And I think we continue to see that we should be rebelling against these systems that lock us out in certain ways. And yeah, I again am very comfortable with the messiness getting there, but I do think it's worth us sort of zooming out, because I think we have this overall vibe that crypto is just bullshit, and it's
Mm.
the prevalent vibe. And what I think I'm the most optimistic about right now is that we are at this place, and would love to dive into what you're seeing, right? This place where we're building technology that people actually get to go use,
Yeah.
where people can actually experience that. And so, I think you guys have been very active in the app layer, in the consumer layer, and trying to support teams that are going there. So I'm curious, maybe bring me back into my optimistic, rosy glasses here. I know you have a great seat at the table to see interesting things
Totally.
coming. What are you excited about at that sort of consumer crypto intersection out
Yeah,
there?
there's a ton of interesting projects and experiments happening in the consumer landscape in the Solana ecosystem. So first and foremost, Kalshi chooses Solana to launch their first Kalshi-powered liquidity markets in crypto using Jupiter is a huge, huge deal. and actually seeing potentially the benefits of composability for prediction markets, whether it be through collateralizing, through leverage, through fractionalization. I think that's a great use case of crypto, and we'll see how that adoption mirrors. We know our friends at Nuco very well, right? Austin and team are world class coming from Doodles. I love the positive vibes that they're bringing to the ecosystem, and it is completely the positive ethos of what crypto is all about. They rewarded their super fans with NFTs, and those NFTs are valuable today. I think that is awesome in terms of what they're doing. And the best part about it is that no one knows what's going on. No one knows what's happening, but people are having fun and they're leaning into this community first UGC related era that I think Austin and team are leveraging really well. Last thing I'll mention, right, is Moonbirds is launching their token on Solana. Burb is coming. Spencer and co are also world-class founders on the Orange Cap game side. They're bringing revenue-generating products to Solana, whether it be vibes or collectibles through Collector Crypt. I'm extremely excited about the energy that all of those three teams and more are bringing to the Solana ecosystem.
What do you see as being some maybe up and coming or like pre-attention cycle narratives or categories you're excited about? I think we're all sick of, I mean, we love prediction markets, but great, everyone's integrating prediction markets. I think we're clearly getting sick of the ICM launchpad conversation. So like what's next that's getting you excited?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm actually very excited on two things. One, I'm a huge believer that the creator economy will actually be improved with crypto. This is the creator monetization thesis. I actually think what Pump is doing with their live streams and even Zora on Base in terms of utilizing that mechanism to actually help tail end creators monetize from a 10x experience compared to Web 2 and rewarding their super fans is just fantastic. And then two, I love this intersection of I would call it the TikTokification of content today being mirrored with financial primitives or tokens. I actually would love to see more people building in that space, leveraging social feeds. Trends.run is a great Solana project that is doing that. Anon Coin is another one actually that allows you to launch anonymous tokens and actually see who follows the token launcher on X in an anonymous way. And there's a social feed in terms of guessing who it is and whatnot. So hitting on that intersectionality of content becoming financialized.
I think one of the big open questions is, at least in my mind, is the big consumer opportunity going to be captured by the people with distribution today, or are we going to see net new, weird, interesting things that just break out? I think last cycle, you had things like, prediction markets, boom. These are not, it wasn't DraftKings that launched a prediction market. It's this crazy kid in New York who makes it happen. Or, OpenSea, that's an entire new type of asset and exchange, and just maybe it's still uncertain if they've like dominated that market, but for a time they did. And now I think we see, Robinhood, and we see Coinbase, and we see these really big install bases of sort of users clearly seeing the opportunity and starting to integrate. So I'm curious, from your seat, are you more bullish that we have like, breakthrough disruptors that are going to go capture market share in this capital ICM world, or is this going to be more of like an extending technology?
I definitely think it's the incumbents, and we have data points to actually prove that out in Pump and Axiom, right? Axiom is the fastest growing Y Combinator company in that accelerator's history, right? In terms of being being a disruptor, though. And Nam, actually, from Bonk, one of the core contributors, said something that stuck with me, is that the average person spends around 5 minutes a day thinking about money. The average financial person who doesn't even think about money at all, it's like 5 minutes a week, right? So like payments related, or from an incumbent perspective, there is more leverage and opportunity in the Pumps, in the Believes, right, in the Zoras, in the Axioms, than from an incumbent distribution perspective, that there's a lot of bloat and bureaucracy to deal with.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to me, because I think I was very early into Web 2, and I think you get to see the sort of emergent, exciting experiment era, and then you start to see like the markets coalesce around the pretty clear business opportunities. And I think what we're seeing is that the consumer opportunity here is some mix of social trading and asset issuance in some level. And I think I both hold that that's probably going to break through into the mainstream through these, well-known brands, and yet it's going to be really driven. And there's probably many, many more niches that could be very, very big for new products to emerge from it. I think streaming
Yeah.
creators, et cetera, are the ones that I think
People,
have leads right now.
but and the paradigm is shifting in the mainstream culture. People are buying into this idea that tokens are content because TikTok, Instagram, et cetera, are being so hyper financialized. They understand the value of meme coins and social tokens. That's actually been something extremely intriguing for me to investigate. Is when I talk about, Bonk, for example, they're actually opened up an art gallery in New York City. They actually leveraged their funds of speculation, of community ownership, and actually opened up a physical brick and mortar to support the New York City art ecosystem. I think that is tremendously cool, and a lot of people in mainstream culture will not only understand that, but buy into that theory.
Great shirt.
I'm
Great shirt.
interested, I'm very interested in how you think about, I guess, application tokens. So Jacob did a great talk yesterday where he said he had a couple quotes on the slide. I'll read off. When he said, as tokenization increases, the percent market share of new markets denominated in the L1 asset will decrease. And ultimately, the L1 asset monetary premium is open to competition. So I'm interested in, as you think about, really leaning into the consumer landscape on Solana, these consumer apps launching tokens, and those kind of being the tokens that people want to transact with and have relationships with, what that ultimately means for like the SOL token long term.
I honestly think my personal opinion is that it's pretty net positive for the Solana ecosystem if we have valuable businesses making money on top of it. Totally a few years ago described our goal as almost akin to AWS infrastructure, right? The application layer building or leveraging AWS, whether it be Snapchat, whether it be TikTok, other large applications, the cumulative market value of those assets might be greater than AWS, maybe not in this macro environment today, but I think ultimately that's net positive for both the application builders and from like an L1 monetary premium perspective. And as Solana still leads, number one in developer growth, net new asset issuance, trading volume, application revenue, I expect that trend to continue. And candidly, we welcome that if people are building successful killer businesses on Solana.
Yeah, I think it's maybe more bearish for new L1s, L2s emerging. I think liquidity becomes the game here, and you think, okay, where do I want to go and launch my thing? Even if I have the plan to sort of use a quote pair or use my token as money in the platform I'm building, you need that base layer of liquidity to be able to bootstrap that. And so I think we start to see. Yeah. I'm curious. I think like it's been interesting. I think over the last little while we've had much more engagement with the folks over at the Solana Foundation, and frankly, very impressed with kind of the speed and flatness of the organization over there. So I'm kind of curious just how you think about what your role is, but either as the foundation or specifically your role in the ecosystem that you're developing.
We're ultimately stewards to the ecosystem, right? Our sole allocation was given to us by the community, and ultimately everything should stem from that. The flatness of the org and the entity, I candidly love. It's a degree of high agency in terms of supporting the ecosystem that Lily, our executive, gives everyone internally. Everyone is an advocate for the ecosystem, and our success, it only happens if the ecosystem is ultimately successful. And it's bottoms up, right? Like we're supporting founders on a day-to-day basis, but we also focus on filling in gaps that the ecosystem can't prioritize right now. For example, connecting ecosystem teams to large opportunities, whether it be on the institutional side, whether it be looking for new hires, everything across that spectrum. And then ensuring the infrastructure is there to build the next gen internet, coordinating with Onza, with Solana Labs and validators to actually make sure that the puck is going in the direction to actually support everything that we're talking about, and ultimately ensuring that the best assets and the best teams are living on Solana and are building successful businesses at home.
I seen Vibu out here taking on XRP trolls and I'm trying to. I should probably just ask him this, but I'll ask you. Is that personal interest or is that reflective of a strategy here? Because there's one way of looking at this and saying Solana has been sort of picking, I guess, Ethereum as the enemy or as the big boy in the room that you're going after. Is that attention shifted to XRP as the sort of the foil for competition?
It's so interesting to think about competition because my personal viewpoint is that our competition is centralized systems. I'm actually very ideologically motivated by that. The pie from a user adoption perspective in crypto today is way too small to actually be focusing on other ecosystems. And also, I think there's short-term competition with Ethereum, and personally, I don't think so with XRP, but I think that
I don't think you
ultimately,
think so either.
I ultimately think that makes us better in terms of technological improvements, user adoptions. And I think Vibhu is an extremely passionate person, and that represents the passion that everyone at the foundation should want to start Twitter arguments and defend the ecosystem like he does. I will defend his right and his privilege to do that, less so on the energy spent on that argument.
He's insane, man. It's just
I mean, you got a real Mert back in, man. He's flipping boats to Zcash.
Yeah, it just
But
you let me
again,
know what Mert's going to go get excited about next, Pedro. Because
Yeah,
that's what I wanna
exactly.
be a part of.
You should have him on. Have you?
We have,
we had him
yeah,
on.
we definitely have, and we're going to definitely get him back on. He's he was great. All right, I mean, I guess you guys have a breakpoint that you're working towards in December. Is there anything you want to share about that before we let you go?
Yeah, breakpoint in December in Abu Dhabi. It's going to be a plethora of amazing launches. It's actually going to be one of the most, I think, eclectic and valuable breakpoints we had, just from a perspective of there's going to be a ton of institutions and obviously a ton of application builders in the room together. And we actually rented out an arena. The Etihad Arena is just gorgeous and it's tremendous. So I highly recommend, even if you're not in the Solana ecosystem, just to learn more about it, have a conversation, feel the energy, and buy tickets.
But also, I find these conferences are the most useful when we're in these periods of uncertainty in the ecosystem too. I think when it's just pure bull market, everyone's just like overly optimistic and getting excited by everything. And I feel like we're in a kind of important moment for the ecosystem right now. And hopefully Breakpoint is, we can rally around the things that matter and are coming up.
Yeah, I chose to join the Solana Foundation a week after FTX crashed, and partly because the amount of smart people who were just defending it but doubled down in that ecosystem was just tremendous. I saw folks from Tensor, Ilya, obviously Mert, and folks in the Solana Foundation as well. It made the decision, all these smart people were doubling down during times of uncertainty. You know, chaos provides opportunity, and I think this is the best time to actually join crypto and specifically the Solana ecosystem.
Caught the bottom. I guess we got to copy trade you, Pedro. Let's go find you on FOMO so we can see what you're interested in. That's a great timing to come in. All right, man. I mean, this is a long overdue conversation. Appreciate you coming on. I'm sure we'll have many more. And yeah, I think Josh and I were at Breakpoint 2 years ago, and you guys put on one hell of a show. So definitely something people should have on their.
See you guys this year.
We'll be there.
Hell yeah.
We got stuff planned. We got stuff planned.
Great.
We get something going on. Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys. This was awesome.
Thanks, Pedro. Rock and roll, brother.
Bye.